Welcome to Ride the Stream. We're here discussing Dark Winds. We are more than halfway through the first season, episode 4, I believe pronounced Hooghandi. Um, I am here by my dearest of friends, Michelle Brittany. We are enjoying this series. Michelle, how are you today?
Yeah, doing okay. I actually had to turn on the air conditioner a couple days ago. Was feeling a little faint because it was over 100.
Oh, ooh.
So we finally broke down and turned on the AC, and that was helpful because I was feeling a little bit peaked on Saturday. So, but I think we're expecting about 106 today.
Oh,
Yeah. So. I feel for all the people back in the day, here in Arizona and no air conditioning and how cowboys and the ladies roughed it, and of course even earlier Native Americans, roughing
yeah.
it. So this is harsh country and so yeah, it's gonna be a warm one today. And what about you? Your weather's kind of been all over the place over the last couple of months. Are
It's
you in 20-degree weather?
I think it was low 50s this morning. Um and I don't think it's supposed to get much warmer. Yesterday it got up to like 80.
Oh,
Um so, you know, 30-degree shifts. That's nothing for Maryland. Uh
no, no.
uh well, I know there's a lot in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Um if you're new, thank you for joining us, and for all of our viewers who have been here for a while, you know that we do a synopsis. We have a couple questions that we do, and then we ask, what are your favorite character or most interesting moments from the episode? And you can drop them in the comments. Um, and if you haven't, please like and subscribe. But I won't dilly-dally too much longer. Should I just dive into the synopsis?
Yeah. Let's get this show going. We got lots to
Yeah.
talk about.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is, but I feel like my synopsises for the Dark Winds have been briefer than any of the other shows we've been covering. It's probably because there's so much we got to talk about. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
all right. Dark Winds episode 4 is all about the two main bad guys, the priest and Scarface, and how they're righting wrongs in the classic form of an eye for an eye. Even when it comes to setting things right, they're willing to sacrifice members of Dene to achieve their goals. Although Scarface doesn't seem as comfortable with killing Dene, the priest says it's all part of their plan, and any sacrifice will be worth it. Quick side note, when I said all part of the plan, I couldn't help but just think of the Joker saying that in The Dark Knight. Sorry. Um, we also see the pair kill off the swimmer helping Leaphorn, and the helmet he discovered is traded to the worker who helps Manuelito. She later searches the lake after seeing the abandoned boat in the water and finds shoes in the boat. Chi joins Leaphorn and Emma for dinner. They enjoy good food that reminds Chi of his mother, while Emma also recognizes how good it is to have laughter at their table again. But it soon falls apart when she tells Leaphorn she's decided to have Sally come live with them, even though Leaphorn thought she'd be better off at the shelter. Later, we also see that Leaphorn seems to recognize that the priest isn't who he says he is, and then later find old photos to reveal the priest is portraying his long lost twin brother. Unfortunately, the priest and Scarface are setting up an ambush, and when Leaphorn and Chi arrive, they do recognize that something is off, and soon realize Scarface is in the distance shooting at them with a rifle. Fortunately, Bernadette is able to hear the gunfire She arrives, saves the day by shooting Scarface and taking him into custody, but the priest does escape. Scarface tells them that him and Chi go way back after calling him an FBI agent. Leaphorn says he thought he didn't know Scarface, while Bernadette's just questioning about being an FBI agent altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Later, Leaphorn tells Chi he never wants to see him again, and they briefly fight before Chi speeds away in his car. And with the entire relationship of the trio up in the air, we see Leaphorn return home to eat dinner alone as the rest of the season and his relationships seem in question. And that is the episode. Um, I don't even know where to begin other than just to say, what do you recall your first impressions when you saw this episode for the first time, or maybe how you felt watching it again?
Yeah, things felt like they connected better this time around because um, we actually make the connection that Scarface is Frank Nakai and is actually a veteran and he's a war hero and he's been decorated with the Purple Heart. So it's kind of like this is a man who has some amount of honor, and we do see a little bit of that in this episode. Um, the crazy one is actually who we find out is actually James So, who is stepping in for his brother Benjamin So, who is the priest that's actually in Italy. And he's probably still in Italy. But his twin brother, James, who is the bane of the family, so to speak, because I guess he was kind of a rebellious, wild child who, um, you know, I'm going to say flipped his finger at authority. And it's very obvious this guy is just, he is a bad dude.
Yeah,
Um, More so than Scarface or Frank. Even though Frank is also scary, I I kind of feel like there's something there that you can kind of reason with. Um, and you do kind of wonder, okay, I guess can kind of understand why you'd get a little bit suckered in by James So. You know, the mission of the Buffalo Society being to, as he says, stand for the decolonialization and liberation of their lands. The society rejects the imperialistic capitalist settlement culture. And I mean, I can understand why that would kind of bring people in the fold. But it seems like it's only brought one person into the fold, which kind of makes sense. Now begins to make sense when you think of James So being this rebellious kid that, hasn't really changed his way. Um, he's explosive. He says that he's for the people. He talks to BJ Vines, the older man who's been buying up, property. He bought he bought the mine, and somehow didn't know about the explosion. That and this is kind of an interesting thing that kind of brings up something different. I'm going to be like all over the place. I'm going to try and
uh,
stay focused on this, but
this
you
episode was
know,
all over the place.
yeah. So when So talks to Vines about the explosion, So uses that as a way to do action. It's like that's how he justifies his action when I honestly don't think he gives a rat's ass about anybody. I think that's just him, his verbiage to do what he wants, because he has no problem with killing anybody, as we've seen a few times. And even though it seems like it ought to be Frank to be the one to pull the trigger a lot, it's really not Frank. It's So.
Yeah.
Um, but it's interesting how So brings up with Vines about the explosion and the people that died, and about the eye for an eye thought process. But he made an interesting comment that he feels like there was something more. It wasn't just oil. There's something more going on with the mine itself, which leaves it open for, well, what is going on at the mine?
Yeah.
I didn't really necessarily think that Vines knows. I don't think so knows. I think he's making some guesses and just throwing stuff out there and seeing what's going to stick. Um, so um, I thought that was actually, helps to connect dots. So kind of wrapping and going back around. I felt like this episode helps to start connecting dots. Like we've gotten a lot of fact finding, a lot of investigative. Now it's starting to put together the dots. And I mean, we even have a scene between Chi and High Pockets as Chi says, basically puts the dots together for us,
Yeah.
to some degree around the heist and then also the players in the heist. That's actually kind of brought back together, which I thought was well done. Um, Even though we're starting to, put our dots together, it feels like Chi, kind of like solidified what we're thinking about as far as all the different dots. So, um, the violence in the episode, I had kind of forgotten about, and just the fact that it's So that's doing all the killing,
Yeah.
uh, than anyone else. He is such a creepy guy, and I was thinking this morning. As I was kind of going back through thinking about the episode and about our discussion. Um, he when he talked to Lee Porn in an earlier episode, he said that uh he didn't have any family. And then
Hmm.
when they're talking and I think she brings up, oh, well, is there any family that we need to contact or anything? And he brings up about the brother.
Yeah.
Um, and I actually, at first I thought, well, he forgot that he didn't mention his brother before. And then I got to thinking that maybe that was on purpose. So I'm actually reading that maybe that was on purpose in order to try to bring the men back. So that way
Uh,
he could get rid of Lee Porn and Chi. Um, because I'm well, they know Chi is a Fed. It's just not everybody else necessarily knew that she was a Fed, i.e., Bernadette
yeah.
uh, was the one that didn't know. So I thought that was actually very, very interesting how things are actually starting to ramp up and start. The pace is really quickening in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Um, oh, go ahead.
Oh, the only other thing that I would say is that this time I paid more in this watch through, I paid more attention to the titles of the episodes, and sometimes I don't pay close attention to that, but in this case, because of last week, and the K terminology and understanding a bit more about that. Um, Hooghandi means the place home. And I thought that we don't they don't really talk about place in a traditional sense. This is more, to me, taken as a concept, the place home. And honestly, what that means for every person, what that means to them, what is home. She doesn't have really a home. Lee Porn has a home, but it's broken. Particularly at the very end, which I thought you did a very nice job recapping the episode and the fact that the visual ending of him sitting there very stoically at the table with cold food, and he is the only one there, and there's pictures, a couple of kind of stark pictures on the wall behind him.
Yeah.
a family, and there's no family there. You know, he's had a big fight with Emma because she wants to bring Sally into the home. And obviously, they've been kind of numb through all of this since their son has died. And for to have people there coming for dinner, for she remembering to bring or just bringing a gift, and how he's I don't want to say he's really flirting with Emma, but it's just there is a young man in the house. It brings a youthful energy into the house.
Yeah.
And uh, I love it when um, Lee Porn is like, he has a thing about RC Cola. Maybe we need to get RC Cola for one of our episodes. Um, but they take the last two bottles. And in the prior episode, I think he ends up without any RC because people that are in the house have taken his last RCs. And I'm sorry, no respect if your last two bottles of RC is taken by your wife and company, and you just kind of have to, and she even says, "Well, I guess you'll be drinking water tonight."
Yeah.
Who really has the pants in the house, and it just I really liked, thinking about this episode with that concept in mind, that overarching concept and what the place home means to all these different characters and what is right, what's wrong. Is there a right, is there a wrong answer? And I think that it's all in the perspective of the individual. And we see a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah. With the right and wrong, as soon as you say that, I think about uh Cheese perspective.
Mhm.
Because last week it seemed like he was in a place where sticking around made sense because of his interest with Bernadette, the mutual interest. And
Yeah,
this week was almost like, where did that go? Like
yeah,
he was talking about, getting that job in DC um and when he was meeting with High Pockets, it seemed like he was kind of trying to like finagle the situation to where like, no, 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 let me and Lee Porn do it.
yeah,
And but he was still in the mindset of leaving. So I was surprised. That felt abrupt. And it brought me back to my questioning his motives from the first episode. And I was like,
yeah.
well, crap. Like I thought, he had maybe found home, a place
Mm-hmm.
by coming back and maybe realizing that there is good there for him to stick around. And um, so I was really kind of just surprised by that shift. And everyone in this episode seems to be at odds. Uh, the bad guys are at odds. Um, and the main characters are at odds. Um, and it just, that end sequence kind of just puts it all together where it just, uh, everything seems fractured. But like you said, there are a lot of dots connected. Like we see what happens with kind of like the heist, who's involved, the priest kills the pilot, and then he and Frank, the witch,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Wanda pushed the helicopter down the mountain, which I guess lands into the water.
Yeah.
Um, so that was, I think, and Wanda also warns Bernadette about the priest, saying you should be more afraid of him than the witch. And I think in this episode you see that. Like he's not afraid to pull that trigger. And I keep forgetting the swimmer's name. I feel so bad.
Raymond.
Raymond. Like that was shocking. Was not expecting that at all. Like he just looks up, sees the two, and then he's shot in the head. Um,
Yeah.
Going back to the relationships that we're seeing kind of, I wouldn't say de-evolve, but erode maybe. Do you think that the reactions that we get, because I feel like Joe and Bernadette's reactions to Frank saying, "Oh, I know you. You're an FBI agent." Um, I'm surprised that both of them aren't maybe a little more hot about being like misled or lied to. Um,
Yeah, because when it came up about when they had the trio had their meeting in the station, I don't remember if I noticed it the first time, but I definitely noticed on this viewing that Chi reacted when he heard the name Frank Nakai. And it almost like he stiffened up
hmm,
and immediately said, "No, don't know him." And
yeah,
I'm like, "You lying." Uh, like
yeah,
I knew right away. No, you're lying. That yeah, you know something more than you're giving out. And I was really surprised that maybe Bernadette not pick up on it because she doesn't know that he's FBI. But I was surprised that Lee Porn didn't necessarily pick up on his change in demeanor, especially
yeah,
when in an earlier episode he saw the look that passed between Chi and High Pockets in the makeshift morgue. And the look, that look kind of like a father looking at a son type of thing.
yeah,
So, yeah, I was kind of surprised that that was missed. But I do feel that um, I was still surprised by the fact that she was willing to leave, or is willing to leave, I should
yeah,
say. Um, because yeah, I thought he had a connection with Bernadette. I thought he also had a good rapport with Leaphorn. Otherwise, I don't think Leaphorn would have ever said anything about the fact that his parents sent him to a simulation school.
yeah.
I don't think he ever would have shared something
Very
so
personal.
personal
Yeah,
as that when they were at St. Michael's and they were doing the research in the archives. Uh, s- so yeah, I was definitely surprised by that, but I definitely cued in on that I didn't think she was giving all the info um, that he had. So now he's basically crossed Leaphorn again, and fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me type of thing. So I feel like, yeah, if she's ever going to get back in there and help Leaphorn, which is what I think he tried to play both sides, but then tried to play high pockets a bit more, so that way Leaphorn could get the credit.
yeah.
Yeah, that was one.
Oh, bing.
Um, I think ultimately she didn't do it in a it backfired for Chi big time. And that
Yeah,
was sad because I really did like the chemistry of everybody, and it's hard when they're all at odds. It's kind of like when we were watching Lost and people would be, when Kate and Jack would become at odds with each other, it just didn't seem right.
Yeah.
And here's another case where I feel like it doesn't seem quite right. So, and it seems like Leaphorn kind of developed a rapport with Chi almost in a way more closely than he has with Bernadette because or it's just different framing of discussion. Like, for example, Leaphorn tells Chi that his unofficial deputy is his wife. And so then when Leaphorn is telling the two of them that he got his information, or I think even Chi says, "Oh, did that come from your deputy?" And Bernadette's like, "What the F? What do you mean?" The look on her face says it all, right?
Mhm.
And then it's like she's like, "Oh, Emma. Oh, okay." And then Bernadette kind of relaxes, like, I almost felt like she was thinking that, you mean there's somebody else I don't know about? What's going on here? I thought I was number two.
Yeah. I mean, at the dinner table when she gets up, does he say sit down, Joe? Does he
Yes,
call him his son's name?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And
There
that's
was a
why,
lot at that.
Cheese says, I think maybe you're too close. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, there's a lot or quite a few sequences that made me feel bad for the characters. Um,
Yeah.
like that, him calling Chi Joe, Chi reminiscing about his mother's food, and Emma, even talking about good to have laughter again at the table is, bittersweet.
Yeah.
Um, I feel awful for Bernadette because we talked about last week how she is very like, meticulous with her job and her appearance. She doesn't let people in, like for them to get to know her. And she did with Chi. And for her to learn that he's an FBI agent and that Lee Porn knew and didn't tell her.
Hmm.
Oh,
That's
just
crushing on so many fronts.
yeah,
And, especially when she was hoping for them to continue the conversation and she could tell him about her clan. Because to me, I'm kind of like feeling like, well, if you want to know about the clan, that's a big step. That's like, okay, I want to make sure this isn't my first cousin because I want to date them. And
yeah,
if you didn't have romantic feelings, that wouldn't be as big a deal, you know. At least
yeah.
I'm thinking that maybe it wouldn't be at the same level. Um, because obviously, Chi wasn't like asking Lee Porn about his clients.
Yeah, was it Emma that asked about his and he kind of told them and made a joke about it?
Yeah,
Um,
they kind of it was funny because they both looked at each other like they knew because I even think Lee Porn says something, oh, don't, what them don't matchmake. That's,
oh
and it's
yeah,
like and Emma said, "Oh yeah, I don't have to." And she looks over at him and it's really cute.
he's
Uh
got such a smile on his face because she
yeah.
asks about, oh, wasn't she beautiful the other night?
Yeah.
And Lee
Yeah.
Porn's just like eating his food, like oblivious to the fact that there is something there,
I, and
which is so counter. He's so intuitive, but he can't see. So that was
yeah,
great.
which makes me almost think that like he's really good at investigate investigative observations, but maybe not necessarily all people. Um, yeah, it's interesting when somebody's so close to you and then you don't, you know, you can't see those things. But
Yeah.
he's read correctly Father So being, you know, uh, the other brother. Um,
And was
so,
it, did they, being cat sighting too?
mhm.
Uh, so is it James? So was he accused of burning down a school at a younger age? Was that him?
Yeah, so
Okay.
he's the one. The twins went to St. Michael's. It sounds like Benjamin assimilated, and went on to become a priest, and he's the one that's in Italy. James is the twin that wears glasses. Benjamin didn't need to wear glasses, when you see those two pictures. And Lee Porn comments about it. Um, we don't know the background of James other than the fact of what James So's actually reveals is that, you know, as Benjamin, he says, "Oh yeah, my brother, you know, lit the chapel on fire, um, and caused damage." But we don't know anything more about James. And, then it comes to find out that it's James revealing stuff about himself
Yeah.
as he tries to play his brother, the good religious. And so now it makes sense that because I'm like, unless you have a background in religion, you might not necessarily know, like, kind of how to talk and make it seem like you are a, man of faith. And so now we have a little more understanding that you know, he and his brother went to Catholic school, some sort of Catholic school. That's how they both, that's how James knows about the religion aspect of it, even though Benjamin is the one that actually followed a
Right.
religious path.
Yeah, it's the interactions that we've seen between James and Leaphorn. Oh, bing. Um, are always interesting because it always feels like Leaphorn just has his eye on him. Like he thinks there's since the beginning, it just seems like he's felt there's something off. And maybe it is like you're describing him not naturally having that presence of being a priest, and it's a show, and so Leaphorn can
Yeah.
kind of like see through that
Hmm.
facade, and I think that's why it's so surprising when he's so good at that, and then he's telling Emma not to match make Chi and Bernadette.
Yeah, that'll never
Um,
work. Hmm.
yeah. Well, now I'm really worried.
I
And
know.
now I'm wondering, well, how does Frank know Chi?
Yeah.
It's like they go way back. It's like, well, how? So I'm hoping there's some
Yeah.
more information revealed about that as well. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I'm concerned about where does the trio go from here? Um,
Yeah.
I'm assuming Lee Porn and Emma will be fine. I hope. But the other
Yeah.
three, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, is it really feasible that Sally stay with the Leaphorns with her child? Maybe, but she does have a mother. Um, but it's not, you know, it's not a good environment.
Yeah. Maybe it's just a simple fact of providing structure.
Yeah.
Um, I think we
Well,
can,
oh, yeah, maybe
or,
take a break.
or if you want to finish what you're going to say, sorry.
Oh, no, I think I was just going to say that, after last week when Sally doesn't understand about the the Canalda and the significance of that. Um, when you brought up about structure, I'm thinking that, well, for Sally, that would be some amount of structure, and it's kind of surprising that her mother hasn't taught her this, especially if the mother is a witch. Irregardless, she should know the ways of the people. So it is kind of interesting that um her mother is her mother really her mother, or a surrogate mother or a stand-in
Yeah,
mom, and maybe she is related, maybe it's really her aunt, and something like that, because otherwise why wouldn't a mom explain to the daughter about these different ceremonies, and that way they're carried on. And only thing I can think of is that maybe the witch is an outcast, like Chi's mother was an outcast.
that
So, and maybe
that would
that's
make
why there
sense.
isn't the same kind of traditions and custom structure that we saw last week for many of the other people. So,
Um,
yeah.
we will take a quick break and then we will come back with a couple questions talking about favorite characters and scenes. So stick around, we'll be right back. Hey everyone, it's Travis with Red Stream. Just want to say thank you for watching this video and just here to promote our channel and want to ask one thing. If you can like, comment, or subscribe, one of those things, that would be amazing. That's all I have, and we'll get back to the conversation. And we're back. We're discussing Dark Winds, season one, episode four. Um, I think on and off screen, we've realized that there's a lot in this episode. I know it's a bit of a lot of back and forth. I do think that I touched on offline that I do think the episode's produced very well. And even though there's a lot of things happening, a lot of back and forth, I do think it is done well. It's just trying to uh keep up with everything was uh challenging, but in a good way. Um through all of the various back and forth in scenes, if we could get to our first question,
Hmm.
were there any that stood out to you? Did you have a short list of potential favorites or most interesting?
Yes, a couple. I'll start with because we've talked about it, so I'll just touch on it briefly. But one of mine favorite scenes was the dinner scene when she arrives with Danae tea for Emma. They drink the last two bottles of RC, and Lee Parma obviously comments on that fact, that I love. I think of, the man's home. It's his domain. It's his castle and that kind of stuff. Um, and then, he's not even respected for his RC, or his, you know, they're gone. He doesn't get any. So, and it's not like we ever see him doing the shopping, and I'm kind of figuring that it's probably Emma that does the shopping. Um, so I like how she is very observant. He looks up at the pictures of their son, and he respectfully, provides his condolences. Love how they end up joking, particularly him and Emma have a really good on-screen rapport. So I feel like there's real good chemistry. I mean, there's really good chemistry with all of them, which does make me think, and I'm talking about it now, but I'm not necessarily thinking about it as I'm watching the show because I'm definitely immersed in the show. But, on hindsight, I'm thinking, I wonder how um, they decided who would take on the different roles. And I do kind of wonder, um, Native American wise, it does seem like it's kind of a short list of Native Americans that would be, right, um, and appropriate for these roles and things. So I do kind of wonder. um, how they made the decisions on the different roles and who would fulfill them, because they definitely hit it on the head. I feel with all of the um, decisions related to the actors and the parts that they play. It just really, the connective tissue is very, very strong in this show. And you really get to see that, obviously through, the serious exchanges. But to me, I always feel like humor is a little bit hard to do because there's something personal about humor. You either get it or you don't, I feel. So to me, the fact that you have this dinner scene and it feels so natural,
Yeah.
um, I think that's great acting. And I love that scene. And it runs the gamut from, very respectful, kind of, watching your P's and Q's because you're in somebody else's home, to, you know, kind of chuckling because, one person's on the inside knowing what's going on. So you get a little bit of camaraderie going on and a little bit of in the know. Um, and then it turns, heated at the end.
Yeah.
That makes it, oh man, that was kind of a hard scene to watch, particularly at the end. And it's going along. It's so nice. It's nice. What happened? You know,
Yeah.
suddenly, Lee Porm's calling Chi Joe, and it's just, it just went from here to 60 in 2 seconds. It feels like.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of undercurrent going on. So I really do like what this scene represents, and especially in light of the concept, the overarching, the place home. Um, so yeah, I really like this scene quite a bit. So it is one of my favorites. Um, so for you, Travis, I know you often have a few different scenes. What kind of scenes resonated for you? Kind of curious if we're going to have some cross, crossover.
Well, that scene was definitely uh one of them. Um I surprisingly I have three scenes that
Mm-hmm.
that's one of them. And I haven't picked which one was my most favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that my second scene that I'll mention as I guess an honorable mention will be the shootout scene.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very well done. Um, I there's a little bit of, mirroring actions of like Chi saves Lee Porn when the
Mm-hmm.
priest is about to shoot Lee Porn, Chi shoots inside the cabin. And then when Frank, who's been hesitating, is going to shoot Chi,
Mm-hmm.
Bernadette saves Chi. Um, and I like the quick scene where they show Bernadette getting out of the water. She's getting dressed, and she can hear the faintest of like pops.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to like kind of because I was expecting it to be like loud, echoey pops, but it was very
Mm-hmm.
faint.
Yeah.
And she recognized what it was, and you know, if she doesn't show up, I think there's good chance that both she and Lee Porn are killed. Um, so I just really liked it was a very intense scene. I thought that um, probably the most intense scene that we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even counting like the revelation at the end when Frank says he knows Chi. I don't even count that. I consider that its own scene.
Hmm.
Um, so just the shootout by itself, I just think is uh really impactful. And it's such a shame that the three of them can work well together, and then knowing that it
Yeah.
falls all apart shortly after. So
Yeah.
that's my second one I'll mention.
Yeah, I had that one on my list as well. I thought it was a really good action-packed. Um, I really loved how everybody just kind of clicked together. And they made it such that they've already established that the pond is not that far from the homestead. Like it's up over the ridge and down, because Leaphorn has already done that legwork for us. So, through his previous investigations,
Yeah.
we know that it's not that far. Um, so, it's conceivable and it's logical that she could come scampering over the ridge and doing her part when the shootout occurs. I like that. We, I think we always knew there was going to be something happening at that cabin, just the way it was always kind of like foreshadowing um, the importance of that cabin and the way that Leaphorn looks around in the cabin on multiple occasions. Um, maybe under the guise of looking for Father So, but it is a major player. So I like the payoff of what transpires at that location. Again, I have to commend the writers and the production of just kind of really um, putting something out there and really selling it in an understated way so that it's not like, hey, look at me, I'm going to be important, type of thing. But, ooh, four. Good God, four. Um, that's over half. Just a smidge over half. Um, they really do good payoff of things that they set up, subtly set up. So I really liked that scene. Yeah, I just thought I loved the action, and it really balances against I don't know how many scenes we've had where they're driving in a truck and they have a
Yeah.
conversation. Um, so, yeah, it really kind of exploded on the screen when you had the big shootout. So, and we still have two more episodes. So the fact that
Yeah.
I feel like that was a huge, plot event. And we still have two more episodes. So it's like, wow, what's coming next?
Yeah. And just to add about the home, the cabin, like I liked the way they shot them looking when they know that it's potentially an ambush and they're
Hmm.
looking in the cabin. And you think that it would be easy to identify if someone was in there, but the way they filmed it kind of showed how the priest was off to the side. And I just liked
Yeah.
how it was like, oh, you can actually, even though there's these gaps in between the wood that you can see in, you can't see every place in the
Yeah.
home. So I
Yeah.
just thought that was like a nice touch of like, um, oh, you can, well, how could they have not seen them? Well, the way they filmed it made it seem
Yeah.
logistically possible.
Yeah. It's also interesting how when it is a villain, just how dark their spaces are because the cabin is dark, the windows are kind of boarded up, so you really don't get a whole lot of light permeating into that space. You've also got the witch's home, which again is very dark. It's mysterious. It's for not foreboding, but it is eerie. There's a put offness about it. And even the cave is very dark. And not good things are going on in the cave even. So, yeah, it's very interesting how home is different to different people and what they make of a space. Because we've seen, um, like even the gift shop, Lester's gift shop, is so open and it's bright and it's eerie, or it's airy and it's inviting. Um, Vine's home is very expansive, even not overly decorated, but tastefully done. There's an opulence about it without being gaudy. Um, so
Yeah,
anyway,
Vine's place seemed expensive.
oh yeah. I do like the line where Frank tells him, well, this you bake it, this carpet that you have in your opulent house was made by the Navajo, and he says that may be, but you can't afford it.
Oh, that
I
was
was like,
such a
oh my God, that was a great line and so telling
yeah.
about the
Oh,
disparity of, you know, basically the one percenter versus everyone else.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. Do you have another favorite on the list?
Yeah, again, this is Lee Porn and Chi when they are at St. Michael's. They're uh going through the archives, and Chi says, basically that, he remembers this space. It brings back a lot of memories. And so, Chi is like, oh, did you go to school here? And Lee Porn's like, no, got married here. However, and then he goes in and he talks about being sent by his parents to the assimilation school. And I thought it was very interesting because during that scene, he says that they immediately cut his hair. And we
Yeah.
see Lee Porn has, I don't know what the tie is in his hair, but he always has, his hair is always neat. You've never seen it down and wild. Bernadette is very similar. We don't actually see her hair down, I think, until she goes swimming. I mean, I think it's
I
even
think that's right.
tight
Yeah.
at the ceremony. Um, so the fact of the matter is it's something that hasn't been revealed to us because it's probably very sacred. Um, and so, he talks about that they immediately cut his hair, they took his clothes. But he goes on to say, but they didn't crush my spirit, something else did. And you're like, oh my gosh. If you're thinking about if my clothes were taken away from me and my hair was cut short, or, when you're sent to prison, they, just shave it off, that didn't break his spirit. Something else did. What else could there be? So that leaves something
Yeah.
that's going to hopefully be explored down the road. Really liked it. Very personal, very, very intimate. Obviously shows that lead porn is feeling something, fatherly uh, towards Chi, because obviously later on, he asks him to dinner, and she's like, I haven't been, at it like a real dinner in years, type of thing. And then of course we find out when Lee Porn calls him Joe, that happens just slightly later in the sequence of events. But I did like that scene quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a great scene because it continues to highlight how well the two of them work together.
Yeah,
Um, and it's kind of similar to Bernadette revealing or wanting to reveal stuff to Chi last week, hearing about Joe's past. Um, it's just I like that he's sharing that, but it's also heartbreaking.
yeah,
Um, like when they assimilating, like taking his clothes, cutting his hair. I know that's a huge deal. Um, and it just makes you wonder how those things it impacted his either desire to never assimilate or if
Hmm.
it made him realize there are some things he has to maybe bend on to do the job that he does
Yeah.
as tribal police. So, um, yeah, a lot of personal revelations in this episode. Uh, I have one scene left, so this will be my favorite. Um, I think it's because it's so telling on where we are by the end of this episode. It's the final scene with Lee Porn, by himself. It's just he walks in the house, no one else is there, scrapes food from a small pot
Yeah.
um, onto the plate and just sits down. And I don't know, when they were kind of zooming away from him,
Hmm.
um, it almost had the feeling of like a black and white Twilight Zone episode for me for some reason, just because I don't know. It it really reminded me of how alone it seems for him in this moment. Um,
Hmm.
and which I do tie into a third question based on the scene. But I just thought it was really well done. Um,
Hmm.
it kind of highlights the split between all of the main characters. And again, it's sad. Um,
Yeah.
and it really makes me question, like, well, how do we get back to a good place after he and she blew up at each other?
Yeah.
So um, that's definitely my favorite or most interesting scene. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. That was also my final scene
Yeah.
that I had in my list. I would back it up slightly because we have Leaphorn and Chi blowing up at each other. Chi is back in civilian clothes. He's not
Got
in
that
his
suit on.
uniform. And he's got his muscle car back. He's like totally separate from them, visually separate from everybody. Lee Porn wants his badge and his gun, and Chi says it's already left for you. I'm just like, oh my God, he really did do a humongous split. Um, and then yeah, that last scene. There's no words. It's just him coming into the house, um, and getting his food, sitting down. He's so stoic. He's just looking straight ahead. There's no family. There's nobody. And then the way the camera, like you said, just pulls back away from him too. He's totally alone. Yeah, and you do kind of wonder, how do you come back from that? You know, you know, how do you pick up the pieces after your whole kind of world seems like it's shattered? Um, how do you pick up the pieces? And it's a haunting scene at the end, and it is, yeah, it sticks with you. Zane McLaren, absolute phenomenal actor, and
Agreed.
him as Lee Porn is just perfect. I mean, I loved him in Longmire, and I just think, he's in his total element with this role. I feel like so glad he's Lee Porn. So
I mean, he could say a million words with his expressions.
yeah,
He he portrays someone who it's just like, oh, I root for him. I want to see him succeed. And If you don't mind, since we're talking about the scene, I wouldn't mind jumping to the third question or statement that kind of revolves around this.
Okay.
Um,
That gives me time to think about my favorite character.
Good, me too. Um, I put down the end sequence is very eye-opening because it's Joe all alone in his home eating dinner. Everyone in the episode seems to be at odds with each other, and Joe's always heading off to work, saying goodbye or see you later to Emma. And it made me wonder if seeing him all alone in that scene is an indication of how he feels more often than not. Because earlier in the episode or in our chat, you said that, they've been numb since their son died.
Hmm.
And it made me wonder, God, is this how he feel? Is that scene like representative of how he feels since his son died? Do you think there's anything to that, or am I
Oh
just
yeah,
reaching?
I think no, I don't think you're reaching. I think that's the tipping point where everything just kind of coalesces into the ultimate loneliness, lonely moment in life. Um, you can you can deal with a lot of things, but when you don't really have anywhere to turn and not have somebody there, like for instance, if you have a crappy day at work, you can come home, you have your loved ones, you have your furry babies, um, and it makes life better. You can deal with something. But to come home, Emma's not there, his son is dead, his surrogate son, Chi, has just screwed the pooch, to the point that, he's already left his gun and his badge. He didn't fight for it. He didn't try to, I think Chi does try to start an explanation, but Lee Porn doesn't want to hear it because he's been betrayed.
Yeah.
It's always the FBI gets it. Even in the bigger scheme of things that we hear in the first episode that, you know, the tribal police only has so much power. And so, you know, that's yet another notch of what Lee Porn has to deal with day in, day out. And the expanse of land. We've seen that how expansive it is. It's 27,000 square miles um, of desolate land. Um, you're knocking about with all your ancestral spirits, even, and all the things that come from that. Lee Porn's also just opened the box of his parents actually sending him off to school to be assimilated into a Western culture that is foreign to him. So all of that just kind of, again, coalesces into that moment where, in a way, he's trying to find a moment to find clarity, to not implode from the pressures of all these external elements coming together at that moment. Um, I'm just like, wow, that's got to be like one of the heaviest moments in the series is that moment. And
Yeah.
now we even see the camera pulling away from him. And so
Oh, I didn't even think
by
of it that way.
extension, even us as the viewer is being pulled away from him, even if we want to try to be there, be some sort of emotional support or something. We're not allowed because the camera is even being pushed back from that moment.
Oh,
It's
that's a
incredibly
fabulous point.
powerful. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think of it that is absolutely a spot on fabulous take. I love that. That's even more heartbreaking, but
I
that's
know. It is.
He's such a likable character. I, I mean, we could go into our characters now and talk about them because, he's definitely on the list every
Hmm.
episode. And just, usually I think we both sometimes will be like, okay, we gave a particular scene to a character, we'll give a different character.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if I can give it to a different character as my favorite for the episode.
Yeah. Same here. I feel that in discussing these different scenes, it's sleep porn all the way. If I was giving like a honorable mention, I would give it to probably Emma for standing up for herself. And not being put off by what she thinks is the right thing to do,
Yeah,
which is to take care of one of your own, and what it would mean for that teenage girl to have stability,
yeah,
to be able to learn her culture in a more healthy light than what she's been getting. I mean, we haven't really talked about it, but you know, Sally was probably had the big R, you know, happen to her. And she's a teenager. She should be, you know, enjoying um her teenage years like Nanaba, who's, gets this big celebration of, having her first period and what that means for her, for the community, and things like that. And Sally's missing all that. And Emma wants to provide stability. And ultimately, in a very simplistic way, she's also seeing the future. Our future are our children. The future of the Navajo, the Dene, is in their children. So I sense Emma being the nurturer that she is, because she is a nurse as well. She's a caregiver. This is important to her. And whereas Leaphorn is, you know, representative of the law and keeping justice and things like that, there's a certain emotional um, reserve in that kind of role, which I think culminates again in that the closing moments. Um, and I think his future, Joe Jr., has been taken away from him. He so where does his spirit go? Where is his line, to go at this point?
yeah. Um, yeah. If I had the other character I was thinking about giving it to, I mean, I'm giving it to Joe, but Bernadette for saving the day. She, you know, uh, she's, you know, feel like she's being left out of
Yeah.
the investigation between Leaphorn and she kind of taking the reins. Um, but she's just as equally valuable to the team, equally capable.
Mhm.
Um, so it's I think she's a character kind of similar. I'm trying to think of similar to like on Lost when there's characters like Hurley who you just want to see more of. You know,
Yeah.
they have a important presence when they're on screen. And I feel similarly with her where
Yeah.
she's not the same socially as Hurley, obviously, but I think that she brings a lot to the table with what she can do as an officer and just overall helping people.
Hmm.
So like she was quick to
Yeah.
spot the helmet and
Hmm.
when her helper was wearing the helmet, he traded his cowboy hat for it. and she gives
Hmm.
him $1 and a bag of carrots for the helmet to
Yeah.
trade. And it's
Yeah.
like, so I do like her character. I can't put Chi on there because I'm so upset about his turn.
He's going to be
Yeah,
High Pockets, part two, the way
I
he's
know.
going. Yeah, I would agree with Bernadette. I definitely want to see more of her. I feel the things that we do get to learn about her, like the softness, the soft approach that she has with Roderick, that's very sweet. It's very innocent. Um, the music that she's listening to in the patrol car as she's driving along. There's something naive and quaint and charming about it. And she is a character that I want to know more of. Um, and at the end of the day, I feel her hurt, feel her pain, the fact that it's still a man's world because she came on the scene and Lee Parn really did kind of take to him. And I think it's probably because he has a similar spirit to Joe Jr., kind of that little bit of rebelliousness about him. They're not, I don't think they're supposed to be too far in age difference. I mean, obviously, Joe Jr. is probably like late teens. Chi is probably mid 20s, maybe even slightly later, but he's very young looking. So, you know, there's a vacuum there that was left by Joe Jr., and I think that she does fill that for Lee Porn.
Right.
And the fact that Lee Porn does share some intimate details about himself with Chi goes to show how much he does care about Chi. And the betrayal, it hurts, it runs deep.
Yeah.
Um, especially since he's done it twice. Um, so how do you come back from that? But we might find that out in episode 5. We
I
don't know.
hope so. And we'll just have to take that as our cue. We'll be back next week with episode 5. Thank you all for watching or having us on in the background. We appreciate you tuning in. Um, as always, if you have the moment to like or subscribe, please do. Do you have a favorite character from this episode? Are you equally heartbroken over the circumstances from this episode? Share your thoughts in the comments, please. Um, and I guess until next time, we will be back and we'll see everyone on the flip side.